Welcome back. Thank you for checking out this bonus edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. Check this out. The other day I was having a conversation with my son Cameron. At the time of this recording, Cameron's 20 years old, right? So he's seen a lot of different things in his uh, 20 years on this earth. And one of the things that I love about Cameron, uh, of all my children, he's the one that will ask a lot of questions. And he's the one who's probably going to be the first to ask, well, how was it back when you were growing up? Or how was it, in the 90s? Or sometimes he'll jokingly say, well, hey, dad, this ain't the 80s no more. So um, he reminds me of how old I really am. But on this particular day, we were having a conversation, and somehow we got on the subject of celebrities. And what I mean by celebrities, like celebrities, athletes, entertainers, Hollywood stars, whatever you want to call it. I think all of that, can fall under the category of celebrity. And he simply asked me, say, hey, dad, how would you act if you were around a celebrity? I chuckled because, like, I've been around celebrities, I've been around athletes, I've been around famous people before. Um, and I'm always amazed at how some people, not everybody, some people react. And I explained to him, like, it was your interactions with a celebrity or athlete or star, when I was coming up is different from how it is now. Um, and I'll touch on that in just a second. But my initial thought was, I told him, like, if I was in the same room with a celebrity, a famous athlete, a Hollywood star, I'd probably act like I didn't see him. That's just me. And the reason why I say that is, like, and I'll give you an example. Like, let's use Jay Z for an example. Let's use Jay Z and Michael Jordan. Jay Z is one of my favorite rappers of all time. I think he's one of the greatest rappers of all time. Um, if I were in the same room with Jay Z, I probably would act, would act like I didn't see him. Because here's the thing: I think sometimes, especially when you're of my era, and a lot of you are who listen to this podcast, you don't really bug on seeing somebody. You don't bug out when you see somebody famous. And maybe I operate in this space because of who I am and how old I am, or maybe I operate in this space because I've seen people really just flip out in seeing a celebrity. And I always thought that was kind of weird, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a famous athlete, it doesn't matter if you're a famous movie star or singer or a Hollywood star. You know, you bleed. You have blood that runs through your veins, and you put your pants on one leg at a time, like everybody else, like I do. But if I were in the same room with Jay Z, yeah, I probably wouldn't say anything. It's not to say that I would be in awe, because I'm not in awe of people like that. But just kind of coming up in the era in which I can now, if he said something to me, I would say something back to him, and I may or may not even acknowledge the fact that he's Sean Corey Carter. Hell, I might call him Sean. Nah, but seriously, I don't I just I've never been on celebrities like that. Um I think the little that I know of Jay-Z, I think he's probably approachable if you wanted to have a conversation with him, if you could get close to him. I don't know. I mean, this guy's got probably 7 feet bodyguards. I don't know. But let's just say we're just in a social setting and we're in the same room. Could I get, and I could get to Jay-Z and Jay-Z could get to 12 Kyle? Will we have a conversation? If he initiated it, yeah, probably. But I'm not walking up to Jay-Z and having a conversation. Honestly, I'm not I'm not walking up to a lot of people and having conversations. But, in a social setting, probably not. And that's not to say that again that I don't think he's approachable, but I think it can be a slippery slope when you're talking about you know meeting your quote unquote heroes. Now I wouldn't call Jay-Z a hero of mine because he's not Muhammad Ali, but you get my point. And I think we came from an era where we put these celebrities and rap stars and movie stars on such a high pedestal. But I also came from an era where we didn't really know that much about them. You see, for most of Jay-Z's career, I didn't. I mean, you knew the basics. You knew he was from Marcy. You knew he used to sell drugs and he became a famous rapper. You might know a little bit about his family life. That he had an older brother and I think two older sisters, a mom. He was the baby of the family. You really didn't get too much into people's personalities or their background because that information wasn't readily available. Fast forward to 2022, I could go on Instagram and see what Jay-Z ate for breakfast if he so chose to share it with me. But nah, I'm not approaching Jay-Z in a social setting. Michael Jordan. Anybody knows me. If you know me, I think that Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player that I've ever seen play with my own two eyes. Not film, not, guys that came before him, because I only saw Bill Russell and those guys on film. I didn't see him play live, but live is Michael Jeffrey Jordan. And there's no bigger fan than of me that, I'm Jordan's biggest fan. And I unequivocally say this. If I were in a room with Michael Jordan and it was me, you, and Michael Jordan in the room, I probably wouldn't say anything to Michael Jordan. I'd let you talk to him. Jordan, from what I know and from what I've heard, you know, be somewhat of an asshole. I mean, we saw that in the documentary The Last Dance. Very competitive, very hard on his teammates, and rightfully so. He wants the best and he's very competitive. But, so am I. And I'm just not walking up to Michael Jordan and having a conversation. Again, if we're in the room and he sees me, he's like, hey, that looks like 12 Kyle over there. Let me go and say what's up. I'll dap him up. What up, Mike? Give him a pound and maybe we'll have a conversation. Maybe we won't. I would acknowledge if if a conversation was struck up, I would say, hey, man, big fan of what you did. Huge fan. Appreciate you. And that's about it. I'm not running up on Mike and asking him, did he push off Byron Russell in game 6 against Utah? He didn't, but that's another story for another day. But no, I'm not. I'm not doing that. One of the reasons why I think you don't really approach celebrities or movie stars or rappers, you never know how people's days are going, right? And I get it from a fan's perspective. If I'm in a room with Michael Jordan or if I'm in a room with, Jay-Z, that may be the only time that I get a chance to say hello, shake a hand, take a picture, ask for an autograph. That might be it. I mean, depending on who you are and what circles you run in, you may never get that opportunity again, right? So I get that some people with that on the line will do whatever to, say something or whatever. Me, I'm just not wired that way. And again, I think it may have something to do with just because of who I am. And it also may have something to do with the era in which I came up in. But yeah, I'm not, while I can admire a celebrity from afar and just let it be what it is. If you notice the cover art of this particular episode, you see a young lady and you see the late Chadwick Boseman. Um, the young lady, and I want to make sure I get her information correctly. She was, I'm assuming, like on the red carpet or something. Her she posted this tweet. It was her Twitter handle at Deja underscore diva. Um, and the tweet reads, Chadwick Boseman. He came up to me and said, "You're so beautiful. Can we take a picture?" And subsequently, she took a selfie with Chadwick Boseman. Now, at the time, Chadwick Boseman is a huge movie star. And this is just, I don't know who Deja Diva is, but she's a very pretty young lady with a pretty smile, and they take a selfie together. And Chadwick Boseman at this particular time is clearly a movie star. I don't know if he had done Black Panther yet, but he was probably up on it. And of course, we unfortunately lost Chadwick a few years ago. But I wanted to use that as the cover because this was her one opportunity, probably in her lifetime, to get a picture with this famous celebrity. And interestingly enough, he came to her and said, "Hey, you are so beautiful. Let's take a picture." And that was dope. And that kind of speaks to the person that Chadwick Boseman was. Me, on the other hand, I probably would have gave him dap, and I probably would have kept walking. But the thing about, being around celebrities is that you don't know how they're going to be on that particular day that you meet them or that you come across them. It could be one of the best days of their lives. It could be one of the worst days of their lives. The thing that I do know about celebrities is that, they understand, well, not all of them, but quite a few of them understand that they have to be quote unquote on once they leave the house. Meaning that, everything and everybody is going to want to speak or an autograph or picture, or they're going to want to talk to them. And you have to carry yourself in a certain way, or at least you should carry yourself in a certain way. Some people honestly don't. And if we're being honest, some celebrities, some entertainers, some movie stars, some athletes can be straight up and down assholes. and them being assholes, how they deal with the public. Case in point, Barry Bonds, famous baseball player, home run king, alleged steroid user. Alleged. He was never caught. Barry Bonds notoriously is known for being an asshole. I mean, Bonds was an asshole to the media. He was an asshole to some of his teammates on a day-to-day basis. So what do I look like walking up to Barry Bonds asking him for an autograph or saying hello? He's probably going to say something crazy. And me being the person that I am, and not going to let you talk greasy to me, I'm probably going to say something crazy too. Now we've got a problem. And that's not to say that I'm going to fight Barry Bonds. I ain't fighting nobody. But I'm not going to let Barry Bonds talk to me sideways. Same for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the famous basketball player. I've heard so many stories, particularly during his playing career and some after his playing career. They say Kareem was an asshole too. Very aloof. Wasn't really close with his teammates like that. And there's some documentation out there that can support that. But Kareem, and I don't know. I mean, this guy's 7 feet tall and he's a famous basketball player. I mean, like, not a lot of those walking around this earth. So maybe you feel like people can't compared to you. Maybe feel like people aren't on your level. I don't know. But no, I wouldn't ask Kareem. In fact, I do know someone who in the 80s saw Kareem and he wasn't around a lot of people. They walked up to him and asked him for an autograph. And Kareem looked at him and said, "Hell no, you ain't getting an autograph." And this comes from a very reliable source, family member. Um, so yeah, I mean, could it have been that he just had a bad day? I don't know, but that memory of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar will last forever. Didn't matter how many points he scored, how many times he won championships, how many MVPs he won. That's all they will ever remember. You being an asshole. Same goes for what's my man name? Warren Sapp, football player, used to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Warren Sapp is a known asshole and dickhead. I know at least 4 people whom I'm very close to that had 4 separate interactions with Warren Sapp, and they all were bad. And one encounter was from a friend, well, a family member, who said he was on the train with Warren Sapp, and he just happened to look at Warren Sapp, and they happened to make eye contact. And Warren Sapp looked at him and said, "What the fuck are you looking at? Do you want me to come over there and slap the shit out of you?" Okay. No other words were exchanged. Just an asshole, man. So when you have situations like that, you don't want to deal with people. And I'm sure that there are probably other celebrities and entertainers that we could talk about who have had similar interactions with people. I'm just giving you just a few that I know. And it doesn't have to be like that, honestly. If you don't want to sign an autograph, okay, cool. If you don't want to take a picture, okay, cool. There's a way that you can communicate that to people and keep it moving. No, I understand somebody like Jay-Z can't stand on can't walk through Times Square and start signing autographs. I understand that, because if he does, he'll be there all day, literally. But at the same time, there's a way that you can handle it. Handle yourself. I remember growing up, as many of you know, maybe some of you don't know, my uncle played football for the New York Football Giants in the NFL. Played for 13 years. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His name is Harry Carson, right? And my uncle is very, very recognizable, particularly in the metropolitan New York area, right? So I remember I couldn't have been maybe about 10 or 11. We went to this pizza place. And, it's just me, him, my cousins, and that was it, and my brother. And so, it's him and a bunch of kids, basically. And I distinctly remember, like, we were sitting eating pizza and we were talking as a family. And keep in mind now, because my uncle played football, I didn't get a chance to see him that much. I mean, outside of TV, but I didn't get a chance to hang with him and kick it. And so this is one time where I'm actually just imagine going to grab some pizza with your uncle. And there were literally 7 people waiting in line to, like, come over to talk to him at our table. And one guy walks up and he says, excuse me, sir. I hate bother you. He's like, "Are you Harry Carson?" I mean, which is funny because people always ask that, but I'm like, you can look at him and tell. I mean, like, granted, this was the 80s, so there were no cell phones. So the guy says, "Hey, are you Harry Carson? Can I, is it okay? Are you okay? Is that you?" And he's like, "Yes, I'm Harry Carson." He's like, "Oh man, I'm one of your biggest fans. I love the Giants, blah, 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 blah. Would you mind signing an autograph?" And he said, "Sure, if you don't mind waiting after I finish eating, I'll sign an autograph." And then there were like 6 other people like, "Yeah, okay. Can you get one too? Can I get one too?" He's like, "If you don't mind waiting," he's like, "I'm eating with my family." He's like, "After we finish eating, sure, no problem." And he did. And he handled it very, very well. I mean, like, it got me to thinking. Again, I'm like 10, maybe 11 years old. I'm thinking like, yo, that's got to be annoying as hell. Like I'm sitting there trying to eat. Like I want to eat in peace, right? I don't want nobody coming by and talking to me while I'm eating. Sometimes I don't even want to talk to the people sitting around me or at a table near me or something like that. So, but to have that level of calm about yourself, level of professionalism, it's always interesting because, like, in my travels, like, somehow we get on the subject, and if we start talking football and I tell them about my uncle, anybody that's had an interaction with him, they always have the best stories. They would be like, yo, man, I saw Harry Carson. He was at the mall and he signed my t-shirt and he was so nice and so generous. And I'm like, wow. And I'm not surprised because that's just really the type of person he is. But, when you contrast that with his former teammate and good friend, Lawrence Taylor, who was arguably the greatest defensive player to ever play in the NFL, vastly different. If you met Lawrence Taylor, and I've met Lawrence Taylor before, cool guy. But it's, quite known. Lawrence Taylor and LT, two different people. You could kick it with Lawrence Taylor. You don't want to kick it with LT. And I'll leave it at that. But I've only met Lawrence Taylor a couple of times. And Lawrence Taylor, Lawrence Taylor never met LT. There's a difference. But I just, even seeing my uncle with those interactions, I'm like, damn, like who would want to deal with that? And then I remember, I think it was Michael Jordan's video called Come Fly With Me. And this was at the height of Jordan's, popularity before he won a ring, right? And Jordan said something in an interview that on that tape that made me it always kind of made me stop and pause. His celebrity had gotten so big. He said, like, I would be perfectly happy if I walked down the street and nobody said anything to me. And I was like, damn, I mean, like, you're Michael Jordan. You're the most, at this time, he is the biggest star in the world. Like, there was probably nobody more popular than Michael Jordan at the time. Michael Jordan, at that time, he was just out of here. I mean, like, he was bigger than he was bigger than Michael Jackson. He's bigger than Prince. He's bigger than everybody. He was a global icon. And he said, I would love to just walk down the street, and if nobody said anything to me, I would be perfectly fine. And there's a part of me that probably feels that Jordan probably still feels like that. Like he doesn't want to be bothered. Not that he's annoyed when he's bothered, but he would rather not be seen. But it's kind of hard to miss a tall, bald-headed black guy that's 6'6". I mean, somebody like me, he's 5'7". I'm not going to stick out like a sore thumb. He is. I can go to the mall and nobody not know who I am because they're not supposed to. But maybe one day, I'll go to the mall and say, hey, ain't that 12 Kyle right there? That would be scary and dope at the same time. But I digress. But no, I wouldn't want to live that kind of life. I wouldn't want to live that kind of life in a fishbowl. And that was the 80s and the 90s. And you fast forward to the 2000s. With the advent of technology, now you've got cell phones. And people nowadays just record. I mean, I mentioned getting an autograph earlier. Do people even get autographs now? I don't think that they do. I think, the autograph in the 80s and 90s is today's selfie. Just like this young lady took with Chadwick Boseman. It's the selfie. And then it's also the recording of people, not even asking them if they want. Like, I would never record somebody and not ask them if they want to be recorded. I don't even like recording anything, let alone asking somebody. You're not even asking somebody if it's okay with them that you can record them. And that was the pushback question that I had for Cameron. I said, well, hey, if you saw your favorite celebrity or your favorite athlete or your favorite rapper or your favorite movie star, if you saw him on the street, I said, would you just walk up to him and just start recording? And he was like, he thought about it for a second. He was like, I probably wouldn't. But then his brother, Dion, who's 23, said, I probably record him. I'm like, why? And I got low key offended. I was like, I didn't raise y'all to just start recording people. And he's like, well, Dad, that might be the only time I get a chance to see him. I said, but Dion, you're invading their privacy at this point. Would you want somebody to just record you? It's like, no. And it's funny because like I thought about it when we were my wife and I, we went to Mexico a couple of months ago. And when we were in the airport, we were going through security, and then they had like this little side thing for security. We went through TSA, we were putting our bags on the little thing, we're about to go through security. They had this little thing on the side where people can come through, I guess if you had like a handicap or whatever. But I also noticed that it's probably something for celebrities. And so we're standing there. We caught an early flight. Our flight left at like 7 or something like that. No, it was like 8. So anyway, we're going through the airport, and I look to my left, and my wife kind of elbows me, and she whispers, she's like, "That's Kandi Burruss." And I'm like, "Who?" She's like, "Look, that's Kandi Burruss." Kandi Burruss from the R&B group Escape, from one of those reality shows. I don't know which reality show she's on. I'm sure somebody will tell me. But anyway, Kandi Burruss. And she was walking through, she went through the little side thing, the little celebrity thing for, security, TSA. And it was her and her husband. And, she had on shades and he had on shades. And I'm like, I know that you probably don't want people to recognize who you are, but I mean, come on, bro. It's 7:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Who's recognizing you in the airport? But hey, I understand. But I mean, even like that, like I would not walk up to them and just start recording or say, hey, can I take a selfie with you? Why? They're trying to catch a plane just like I am. They're in the airport handling business just like I am. I'm probably not doing that. In fact, had my wife not even pointed them out, I would have never guessed that they were there, because they may have been, I don't know, 5-10 feet away. Personally, I couldn't go through the little side TSA thing. Maybe one day. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, things have changed, and people don't even ask. I've seen people literally, you see a celebrity on the street and they pull out their phones and they just start recording. And I'm like, why? I've even seen people walk alongside the celebrity, filming themselves with the celebrity while the celebrity's not even paying. I mean, like, no, I couldn't do it. So all in all, I mean, I told Cameron, personally, I would never ask anybody for an autograph. I would never ask anybody for a selfie. I would never ask to film somebody. That's just me. I don't get down like that. I could be in a room with Beyonce, and I'm not. I mean, unless she says something to me, I'm probably not even going to acknowledge that she's there. I remember being at, and I think I talked about this on this podcast. I can't remember, but I remember being at this house party, and it was actually a Super Bowl party. Super Bowl party that I got invited to from a friend of mine who was a friend of the host. The host played in the NFL. Big house, big parties in Metro Atlanta, right? So I might be the only, and as I scanned the room, it was like 300 women, probably like 75 guys, a bunch of NFL dudes, a couple of NBA dudes. I might have been the only regular person in there, right? So T-Boz from TLC was there. Chili from TLC was there. She was looking good too. I think she was dating Usher at the time. And I remember like later on in the evening, Jermaine Dupri came in. And he walked in, and it's kind of funny because there was a pool table by the door. And I was at the pool table, shooting one of my boys. And when he walked in like, "Hey, I'm here." And I was like, I just kind of looked at him like, "Man, if you don't go sit your short ass down somewhere." Because he's really should, like, Jermaine Dupri's like 4'11". Like, when he walked past me, I was like, I felt like Shaq. And I'm 5'7", right? So and for those of you, no, I'm not a fan of Jermaine Dupri. He's a talented guy, but I'm not a fan of him at all. So anyway, it was just the way that he came in the room, like, "Hey, I'm here," like he wanted people to sweat him. And it's like, nah, man. I mean, this ain't a concert. This is a Super Bowl party. It's a lot of women here. Why don't you walk your little short ass over there and talk to one? You know. But nah, I think, sometimes people get a little bit beside themselves with their celebrity. Again, I think, people, I understand why you would want to take a picture. I understand why Cameron would want to take a picture, or why he would want an autograph or want to say something to a celebrity, but it just ain't in me. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.